Hey guys, today we're talking about solving quadratics by factoring. So all this stuff that we've been doing with factoring is really coming to fruition here to help us with solving these equations. Now, a quadratic equation is one of those special equations that's going to have two solutions most of the time, just like absolute value. Because if you think about a quadratic graph, it is a parabola. And so it actually makes a U shape. Okay, this is what the graph of a quadratic equation looks like. And so wherever it intersects the x-axis, we get a lot of times two answers. Now, of course, that isn't always true. Sometimes we only get one, sometimes we get none. But a lot of our problems here are going to have two answers. So let's talk about that a little bit. How do we solve? Well, step one, we put it in standard form, which ax squared plus bx plus c, and then we want to solve, get 0 on one side. So we're going to move everything to one side, and then we can go about solving it, okay? So that's step one. Step two, we factor it, just like we've done in the days before. We are just factoring. And then step three is when we find our answer. We set each of our factors equal to 0 and solve each one of those. There's a very special theory that we'll talk about a little bit more in a little bit called the zero product property that allows us to do that. And I just want you to know you're going to see all of these words today: roots, solutions, x-intercepts, and zeros. All of those mean the answer to our problem. Okay, it's just different words that you're going to see throughout all this. And lastly, today we are just doing the odds. Tomorrow we're going to do the evens. So let's take a look here first at number one. So number one, remember, step one, move everything to one side. Well, this one's already taken care of. We have x squared minus x minus 30 equals 0. Step two, I need to factor. So remember what our steps are for factoring. First, we look for a GCF. So in this one, there is no GCF. Second, we label my A, my B, and my C. So my A is going to be 1, my B is going to be negative 1, and my C is negative 30. So my A is 1, my B is negative 1, and my C is negative 30. Okay, second thing that we're going to do is factor it. And so we need to do my X and my plus. On top of my x, remember what we write? We write a times c on top, b on bottom. So a times c on top, we're going to go 1 times negative 30. So I'm going to have a negative 30 on top. My b is negative 1. So now we're just going to think of two numbers that multiply to negative 30 and add to negative 1. In this case, those two numbers are going to be negative 6 and 5. Then we fill in my plus. So remember, it is ax. In this case, my a is 1, so we're just going to have 1x. So I'm just going to write x. 1x, 1x. And we have my two numbers here, minus 6, and we're going to have a plus 5. Then we see if we can reduce across the top or reduce across the bottom, and we can't on either one of these. So it's just going to be x minus 6 and x plus 5. Remember though, when we write this out, we're going to say that this is equal to 0. And this is really important because what this does is we have two separate things when multiplied equals 0. But what that's saying is one of these has to be 0 because something times 0 always equals 0. In fact, both of them could be 0. And so that's what's going to allow us to set each one of these individually equal to 0 and get my two answers. Let me show you what I mean. We're going to take my two problem numbers here. We're going to go x minus 6 and set that equal to 0. And I'm going to go x plus 5 and set that equal to 0. And then we're going to solve for what x is. Okay? We take each one of my factors and set it equal to 0, and then we solve for what my x's are. So to solve this, I'm going to start off by adding 6 to both sides. And we're going to get my first answer of x equals 6. So there's my first answer. My second one, we're going to minus 5 to both sides, and I'm going to get my second answer of x equals negative 5. You can kind of think of it as being the opposite of what my factors are in here. That's my solution. So here are my two solutions, x equals 6 and x equals negative 5. But my final question asks, what is the product of the solutions? Now remember, product means multiply, okay? So we're going to multiply my two solutions together. We're going to go 6 times negative 5, and that's going to equal negative 30. So the product of the solutions is going to be negative 30. So that's kind of the basis of it. We factor, we set each of the factors equal to 0, and we solve. Let's move on here all the way down to number 3. We're going to talk about this real quick. Let's describe and correct the error. All right, so x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. Take a look with me real quick. What is the error to this? Well, we have x minus 2, x plus 3. It looks good. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. X times x is x squared. However, we have that negative 1 right there, right? So if I were to do my x again, look, we have a negative 6 on top, a negative 1 on bottom. It has to be instead a negative 3 and a positive 2 to add up to that negative 1. So this should be a positive, and this should be a negative. So this will be a positive, this will be a negative, and so we should have x equals negative 2 and x equals positive 3. Just keep an eye on that, okay? Just make sure that but way to find the mistake on this one. Let's turn the page. Let's take a look. Remember, we're doing the odds today, so let's take a look here at number 5. So number 5 says, what is the sum of the zeros? So, sum, add. Zeros, remember that's just another word for my answer. Okay, so remember first step. We're going to move everything to one side and have 0 on one side. So I do not want to move this 4y squared over this way because I don't want to make it negative. We never want a negative a. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this 16y and this 48 over to this other side. So here's my equation now. I have 0 equals 4y squared minus 16y minus 48. Okay, equals 0. Of course, we could even write that equals 0 on the other side. It literally doesn't matter. Okay, now, we have these three. Now we need to factor. First step, always in factoring, is to look for a GCF. And my GCF for this one equals 4. So we're going to divide each one of these by 4. And I'm going to get 4 times y squared minus 4y minus 12. Okay? So, now we do my x and my plus. We label my a, b, and c. My a is 1. Your a is not 4. Okay? That 4 in front is your GCF. Your a is the number attached to your y squared. In fact, we can kind of ignore our GCF. Okay? So, my a is 1. My b is negative 4. My c is negative 12. Let's write that out over here. A is 1. B is negative 4. C is negative 12. So, whenever I do my x and my plus, here's my x, here's my plus. On top of my x goes a times c, so negative 12. On bottom goes b, so negative 4. And so we're going to have my two numbers are going to be negative 6 and 2. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. All right, then we go ax. So we're going to go, remember my a is 1. It is not 4. So we're going to go 1y minus 6 plus 2. Here's my two things that I can fill in over here. So we're going to put those back together. We're going to go 4 times y minus 6 times y plus 2. And remember, this equals 0. So we're going to take now, to solve my equation, we're going to take my factors and we're going to set them equal to 0. So I'm going to take y minus 6 and set that equal to 0. And I'm going to take y plus 2 and set that equal to 0. If I add 6 to both sides, y is going to equal 6. If I minus 2 to both sides, y is going to equal negative 2. So here are my two answers. Y equals 6 and y equals negative 2. But we look back at my question and we think, what is it asking me? And it's asking me what is the sum of the zeros. So now I need to add these zeros back together to find what the sum is. So let's just go do that real quick. 6 plus negative 2. 6 plus negative 2 equals positive 4. So my final answer on this problem is just going to be 4. All right. We're going to skip now to number 7. So number 7 says the area of a rectangle is given by the equation 4L squared minus 10L equals 36, in which L is the rectangle's length. What is the length of the rectangle? In other words, solve this problem. That's really all it's saying, right? Solve this problem. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to first get everything to one side. So let me write this out here. We have a 4L squared minus 10L equals 36. So step number 1, I'm going to minus 36 to both sides. So we can get a 0 on one side. So my new equation is going to be 4L squared minus 10L minus 36 equals 0. Okay, because we need to have it equal 0. Second step, look for a GCF. In this case, my GCF is 2. Divide each one of these by 2. So we'll write a 2 out in front, and we'll get 2L squared minus 5L minus, not 28, minus 18. Okay, then we'll go through and we will do my x and my plus. So my A is 2, my B is negative 5, my C is negative 18. So my A is 2, my B is negative 5, and my C is negative 18. Then we'll do my x and my plus. We'll go x here, plus here. On top of my x, we'll go negative 18 times 2 is going to give me negative 36. On bottom, we'll have a negative 5. All right, and now we're thinking of two numbers that multiplies to equal 36, but adds to equal a negative 5. So what we need to do is we need to list the factors of negative 36, right? So negative 36, let's list the factors. We could do, of course, 36 and 1. We could do 2 and 18. We could do 3 and 12. We could do 4 and 9. Oh, I think we have a winner with 4 and 9, right? We can use a negative 9 and a positive 4. Negative 9 times 4 is negative 36. Negative 9 plus 4 is a negative 5. So now we take my A, we go 2 times the length, 2 times the length. We have a negative 9 here. We have a positive 4 here. Then we reduce if we can, okay? So we reduce if we can, but here are my two factors. My first factor is 2L minus 9. My second factor is L plus 2. All of this still equals 0. And we cannot forget that I have a GCF out in front of 2. Okay, so now 2L minus 9, L plus 2. We set both of these equal to 0 and solve. We do not worry about my GCF. Unless your GCF has an x in it, it doesn't really matter, okay? We're only looking for the factors that have x's in them to find what those are equal to. So I'm going to go 2L minus 9 equals 0, and I'm going to go L plus 2 equals 0. Okay, so a couple steps here. Let me actually just give myself enough space to solve this. I'm going to add 9 to both sides and get 2L equals 9. I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and I'm going to get L equals 9 divided by 2. We could leave it as a fraction, but I'm just going to write it as 4.5. My other one that I have, L plus 2. We could use L plus 2 equals 0, and so L equals negative 2. So I actually have, you see here, I have 2 answers. But we can only have one length for my rectangle, right? Well, we can't really have a negative length to a rectangle. My length is going to have to be positive. So this L equals negative 2 isn't going to work, and we're just going to use L equals 4.5. That's going to be my only answer. L equals 4.5. That's how long the length is. Okay, turn the page. Let's take a look here at number 9 real quick. Number 9, it says, what are the solutions to W plus 5 times W plus 2 equals 40? Man, I would first look at this and I was like, oh, it's already factored for us. We're good. Oh, no, it's not set equal to 0. Oh, no. So here's what we got to do. We have to kind of build our problem before we really get going. Okay? So I'm going to first have to distribute here. W times W, W times 2. So we're going to have a W squared plus 2W plus 5W plus 10 equals 40. Okay, then we combine like terms. 2W and 5W are going to combine to make 7W. So we have W squared plus 7W. And watch this. I can minus 40 here, because we want to move everything to one side and get a 0 on the other side. So I'm going to move my 40 over. So that's going to give me a negative 30. So here's my new equation. W squared plus 7W minus 30 equals 0. Then we check and see, do I have a GCF? So we're going to look and we're going to see, do I have a GCF? No. There is no GCF between those three. So we have no GCF. No GCF. Then we label. My A is going to be 1, my B is going to be 7, my C is going to be negative 30. Then we're going to do my X and my plus, right? On top of my X, 1 times negative 30 is negative 30. On bottom we have 7. Then we stop and think, okay, two numbers, multiply to equal 30, add to negative 30, add to equal 7. I think I got it. What about 10 and negative 3? 10 times negative 3 is negative 30. 10 plus negative 3 is 7. So we're going to plug in my AX, except this time my X is a W. And then I'm going to plug in a 10 and a negative 3. And then I can't reduce these. So here are my factors. Let's change that. Here are my factors. W plus 10 times W minus 3 equals 0. So we have W plus 10 equals 0. W minus 3 equals 0. We solve both of these. Look, minus 10 to both sides here. We get W equals negative 10. And add 3 to both sides here. And I'm going to get W equals 3. Okay? So, here are my answers. W equals negative 10 and W equals 3. It really is as simple as that. Okay? We're just kind of factoring and then flipping it around, see what my answers are. Okay. Last one here. Number 11. Remember, we're doing the odds today, evens tomorrow. So, a city skate park is a rectangle 100 feet long by 50 feet wide. The city wants to triple the area of the skate park by adding the same distance x to the length and the width. So let's break this down real quick. So we have this skate park, right? And it is 100 feet by 50 feet. Okay. And we want to double the area by adding all this out here. We're going to add x to this side, add x to this side, and double the area. Okay, Now let's figure out what that new area is going to be. Well, it says it wants to actually triple the area, right? Okay, so my area originally, what's my area originally? Well, remember, area equals base times height. And my base is 50 and my other one's 100. So that's going to be 5,000, right? My area for this one is 5,000. If I want to triple the area, it's going to be 15,000. So we're trying to figure out what can we do to equal 15,000. Well, we could go all of this side plus all of this side, and we just leave my x's there. Watch, we could go x plus 100 times x plus 50. Hey, that equals 15,000. And now we can see how much I need to add to each side to make the new tripled out area. That's going to be one big skate park. So now we just solve it. We're going to distribute, and that's going to give me x squared plus 50x plus 100x plus 5,000 equals 15,000. Okay, now to solve. We combine like terms, and I'm going to go ahead and minus this 15,000 over to this side. So I'm going to get x squared plus 150x minus 10,000 equals 0. And so now we do this is my A, B, C, do my x and my plus. On my top of my x, we'll have a negative 10,000. On the bottom of my x, I'll have a 150. Okay? So we're thinking of two numbers that multiply to equal negative 10,000 and add to equal 150. And what we're going to get is we're going to get 200 and negative 50. So once we plug in here, we're going to get x minus 50, x plus 200. So those are going to be my factors. X minus 50 times x plus 200 equals 0. Then I can solve. I can go x minus 50 equals 0 and x plus 200 equals 0. Add 50 to both sides, we get one answer. X equals 50. Add minus 200 to both sides, we get my other answer. X equals negative 200. And now we think, okay, which one of these can I add to make my new dimensions? Well, I can't add a negative 200. That's not a dimension. That's not a distance. So that's not true. So now I need to add 50 to both sides. So what are my new dimensions of the skate park? Well, if I add 50 to this side, my new dimensions are going to be 150 by 100. Okay? Maybe I should make that a little bit better. Let's see here. 150, what is it? Feet by 50 feet. All right, guys. Well, that bell means it's time to go. So, I know this was a long lesson. Thank you for sticking it out. Be sure to let me know if you have any questions at all. All right, thanks, guys.